Cool. So, hi, we're back again for the Manchester SEO podcast. Again, a bit different. James isn't here, so I'm going to be doing it today. Today with Debbie Boardman. So, can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Okay, I sell properties throughout Cheshire, the whole corridor there, but I sell it the modern way. So I give my clients the option of modern online auction if they want a really quick, smooth sale, where they want a very secure sale, shall we say. So there's no chance of fall through, etc. But I also sell by private treaty, and I do it very differently because I ensure that my clients have an upfront legal pack on their property. So everything is done. We can also include a home buyer's report, so you know exactly what you're buying. The lawyers that I offer are all in complete communication with each other, so the property gets through in a matter of weeks. That's it. There's no long, lengthy conveyancing that people have to tolerate right now. This is a new breed of how we sell, but it really does help everybody. It's a win-win situation for all concerned.
Nice. No, there's a lot to unpack there. So, yeah, we'll go into. So, how did you exactly get into this market? It's not, I don't think anyone, well, I don't know, you might do, but you might wake up in like year 2 and be like, I want to be an estate agent. But how did you get into this? What was your path from start to end?
I've always been interested in property for a long time, and I think when I was 19, I'm from a horsey background. I'm 4 generations of equestrian competing throughout. And I used to obviously keep my horses fit, so I'd be hacking out on the lanes where I used to have them, and there was a fantastic old fallen down barn that I used to ride past most days. And where I was wasn't great, so I need to sort of maybe look for somewhere else. And I always wanted my own yard and wanted to offer a great facility and a great service to like-minded people like myself. I'm very passionate about my horses and looking after them and their welfare. I knew the farmer, so we went to see them and sat around the table. We got the cake tin out and a cup of tea, and we decided that, this was viable because it was just sat there derelict. So we agreed that myself and my family, we would actually restore it within reason. We would create a yard for horses and facilities, and I would rent it from them. We were there 25 years. But everybody that came to see me, seeing what I was doing, were just astounded that I wasn't actually making it into a house because it had all the big beams and the trusses and everything. But that wasn't on the plan at that time. It's still standing there.
Oh, nice.
We did move on after 25 years, but it was all about that creation, making more of what you had in bricks and mortar, basically. All property I've been involved with, I've always improved it. I've always expanded it and done well out of it, naturally. I lived in Hong Kong for 6 years as an expat. People that were coming over were not buying, but decided it was the best thing to do and did really well on that one and did all the interiors on it and did very well. So I came back to the UK and property's been a thing ever since. So, yeah.
Wow. So a lot of people that come on the podcast, they say how sports, that kind of thing, gets them very competitive. And obviously it's very competitive in housing. Do you think horse riding sort of helped with that a little bit? I've never ridden a horse properly, but I can imagine it is a bit competitive.
Yeah, in whichever direction you want to go in. But yeah, we were competing from a very early age all the way through. So yeah, you do get that gutsy kind of feeling. You put a lot of effort in before you even get to the competition. So when you do get there, you've got to do a good job. It's all about the bond and the connection you have with your horse or your pony, which was always very strong for me. But I'm a big animal lover anyway, so it works.
No, it's good to hear. So modern auction, it's not a word that I think anyone thinks when they start. Well, some people might think when they go to sell a house, but when I'm thinking about selling my house, I just think, I've got to get it on the market. I don't really think about what it is. I just think I need to sell the house. What is it exactly that you do with the auctions? Okay,
it's called modern auction for a reason. It's very modern the way we do this now. Most people do have a stigma attached to auction. They've assumed that it's an old run-down place that you've got to pay cash for. Nobody really wants it, so they just put it in the auction. That's it, which is absolutely not the case. The modern method is for any property to go under auction for the simple process, which is really, really beneficial to both the buyer and the seller and the agent. So it is done in such a way, because I collaborate with Pattinson Auction, and I do all the front end of the business. So I arrange all the photography, the drone, the footage. We do the twilight shots. We put all the bells and whistles on the property because you get one shot when you market it. It's got to be its best self. So I do all that. I do the viewings. I only do them on an open day basis. So it's not lots of different viewings. Generally speaking, it'll be a block. So the client who's selling really quite appreciates that. The house is done once, that's it. I go in and obviously do that. And then I market it for 28 days solid. And on that 28th day, anybody that would like it and would like to bid for it, providing they have got the funds in place. Most properties are bought by by mortgage, which people, again, don't assume that that's the case. It's not a cash buy, can be, but it's predominantly bought with a mortgage and a certain amount of cash. And that can be your house within 56 days. We can do it 28 days if you've got everything ready. If you're a cash buyer, you can have the keys in 28 days. I think the world is so uncertain now as well, with all different things going on, and it always affects the property market. A lot can change in the length of time historically it takes for a property to go through, which can be quite a long time. And at any point, it'll fall down, and that's very big right now. And if you do that in the auction process, there is a financial consequence. So you're only generating and attracting qualified buyers who really want to proceed. So again, it's the security of the sale that people really appreciate. Once that virtual hammer has gone down online, that's it. It's exchanged there and then. So, and you have to have good lawyers that understand this, which I'm fortunate to have. So we all communicate one-to-one. There's no call centre. There's no receptionist. Basically, it is just the lawyers direct, and they're young, up-and-coming kind of people who believe in this kind of process should take place, and it does. Nice. So we prevent all the delays. It's fantastic.
So obviously, it's a bit of a hot topic at the moment. Labour are now in power. I know it's already having effects on the property market. Do you see it having an effect on yours specifically?
Yeah, any decisions made by the government do have a stack of dominoes effect on property because it creates concerns. People's decisions change of what to do for the best. So it does have a big effect. And we've all got to live somewhere at some point, wherever we want to be. But the decisions through the government can have a big effect on that. So we can't control that, but we work with it to make the best of it.
I guess everyone's sort of like got their fingers crossed waiting for this new budget to come out and what's in the works really, isn't
How's that going to affect them when they're buying or selling a property? And it will do. So they will obviously sit on their hands until they feel safe enough to want to proceed and go forward.
Now, on another topic, obviously new builds might not be your area. They might be, I'm not sure.
Not necessarily.
But there's a lot of people trying to get, there's a lot of talk about new builds. They're popping up everywhere. That's the normal thing, isn't it? What's your sort of opinion on all these houses that are popping up? People
that would like to buy a new house who don't want to be in their own house anymore, I can help them to get a quick sale with that to enable them to move forward. I am known for not just changing people's addresses, I actually change their lives because the process I can give them. So that does help them to move forward to get to that house because they've got to have sold their own in most cases before they can proceed and go forward with another one. And I can help them do that.
Nice. So in terms of the other services you offer, what services, is it just the modern auction or is there anything else that you do?
No, that's just the tip of the iceberg because basically I like to pride myself as a one-stop shop. So I can offer the right law firm for you, who I work very closely with. It's all about communication. So I can do that for you. There's removal companies that I work with. And these are all recommendations that I know are genuine and will offer the right service to you. So I also offer private sale. And again, that would be that you have an upfront legal pack all done. So you're not waiting for those searches to come back. They've all been done. So you know exactly what you're buying. You know about the details of the property on land registry. There's no surprises that you will find normally when you go down the normal route. We've brought all that forward for you, so you know exactly what you're buying. So again, tradespeople, if you want to make changes to your property, who do you know in the local area? If you've relocated maybe, you might not know people. But I have a wealth of tradespeople that I use and can highly recommend. So again, I just want to hold your hand through the whole process to make it as stressless as possible. Sort
of like going on a Jet2 holiday, sort of like get to the airport.
A package deal.
Yeah, everything sorted for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that sounds really good. So a lot of people who go on to buying houses, they hear a lot of words, freehold, they hear shared ownership, all these kind of things. When I went and bought my house, I really didn't take any steps to learn any of this. I just sort of riffled through Rightmove, found something, and then just thought, right, we'll go for that one. And then I just did it and I muddled my way through it. What would you say the first step for someone to do if they are buying a house? Not necessarily through the way you're doing it, but just generally sort of like a bit of advice for new buyers. Where do you think they should start the process? Mortgage advisor or from someone like yourself or something like that?
At the end of the day, money is the bottom line. So you've got to know your budget of what you can afford to spend. So ideally, you would need to speak to a highly recommended financial advisor, because it all depends on what you earn to what you can afford. And once that's all been established, they will suggest you go out shopping and try and find the house of your dreams. But it's all about budget. So there's no point going to look at things if you don't know if you can afford them, and how tight that's going to make it for you, or how comfortable it's going to make it for you. So once you've established that, because the first thing I ask people when they ring me to ask about one of my properties I'm selling is, have you got everything in order to actually purchase this property? Is it going to be a cash purchase? Are you doing it with a mortgage? And that's often the case where they'll say, oh, I'm a first-time buyer, but I have got a mortgage in principle. I've got a healthy deposit that I can contribute with that. And at that point, you're ready to buy. It's just finding you the right property. So definitely know how much you've got to spend, because there's nothing more disappointing when you really set your heart on something, but it's just, maybe just out of your reach. So find out what that budget is and work within it, always, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really good advice, because as I said, when I did it, I think we eventually muddled our way onto a mortgage advisor, but we just sort of thought it was almost snake oil salesman. We didn't know what we were doing. We did end up getting there in the end, but it was with a lot of help from a lot of random people.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, having someone tell us the budget would have been a lot more helpful.
Absolutely.
So in terms of what people are now going into, when they're trying to buy a house and things like that, do you help along the lines of buying it, or is it just simply selling the houses?
Yes, we can do. I mean, I'm part of Business Network International, also known as BNI. That's a wealth of professional people in all sorts of areas. Again, financial advisors, lawyers, wills and trusts, because once you buy your property, you've got an asset. You need to protect that. So that's another thing you need to consider. So being part of that, I can suggest those options for you, because you need to be safe, you need to look after yourselves. But yeah, absolutely, I will suggest where you need to go, and it's up to you, but I know hand on heart, you'll be well looked after.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you said there about protecting assets, and it's a bit off topic from the modern auction stuff, but I've heard with the new things that Labour coming in, a lot of people are now getting rid of their properties, like landlords and things, through fear of basically people becoming lodgers almost, not being able to turn over their tenants. Is that something you've heard of in the industry?
Absolutely, yeah. Things work for so long, they don't last forever. Certain business models that people have realised are conducive to them don't always work forever. So when those changes come, you need to change with them for your own best interests. And if it's not viable and it's not a working business model, you need to change it. But again, that's because of the government. There will be a knock-on effect of people's choices in how they purchase property, how long they keep them for, and why they're doing it.
Yeah. And is there any specifically big changes you're expecting to come into the industry that you're a bit fearful of or a bit sceptical of? Yes.
As a landlord myself, I, in the past, have owned up to 8 properties that I've had a high level, quality properties. I've managed them myself. I am the landlord. I have a great communication with my tenants. But it is my home at the end of the day, and I allow you to live in it. I'd like you to respect it and look after it. Anything goes wrong, I'm there. I'll back you up. So it's got to work both ways. Now, with the government changes, that could be quite different. So the landlord actually has got his hands tied in many ways that he didn't have before.
Wow.
And the tenant, again, not to be controversial, but it's got to work for both people. It's got to be fair. And things are coming into place now where this may not be quite so fair anymore for the landlord, and he could get himself into deep water.
Wow.
Because of the way things are going to change with rights. It works. It has to work for both parties for them to collaborate. A landlord, providing his property for someone to live in, and that person living in that may not be able to get a mortgage. Not everybody can just go out and get a mortgage for lots of different reasons. So a rented property is a compromise. But it's got to be fair to both. And I think the way the Labour government are going to change things, it will not be as fair to the landlord. So that's something he's going to have to consider as another option.
No, it definitely sounds like something to be aware of. So something I was going to ask is, people might be watching this, looking at you and thinking, how do I get into this? How can I do what Debbie's doing? How would you say, what's the path they need to be taking? Do they need to go off to uni, getting grades, or do they just need to really just dig in and get into it?
You're a people person, so your communication skills and your social skills have to be paramount. That isn't something you can buy or you can train for. Yes, you can expand on your skills, you can take courses maybe, but it is all about your personality and the vibe and the energy and the education you have about what you do. So it takes time, it does. But again, you're in the service industry, so it's to ensure that your client is number one. You pull the stops out for that client who've chosen to choose you to help them in what they need to do. And as an agent, you have to do that. That's your obligation to your client. So again, it's knowing what you do, knowing your industry, and knowing the best way forward for your clients on your behalf. So anybody wanting to get into this, it's got to come from the heart. You have to be passionate about it. It's hard work. But the rewards are fantastic. And, for me, it's, as I said, I don't just change people's addresses, actually change their lives, and that's the biggest reward for me, that I've helped them on their way with what I know and how I know. And it's every day is a school day. I never stop learning. Everybody teaches me something all the time. So yeah, it's great.
Well, image is everything. I know because I'm a member of BNI as well, and I remember when I first came to and met you, if someone had said, "Can you spot the estate agent?" I immediately knew it would be you, because you power suits, you got the hair, and
that's just there.
But you're always sort of, you're always ready to almost be on that level of customer service, and always that front-facing person who's got the personality, and whether it comes across in personality or just your image as well. I think it is really important that, because I've had estate agents where I've gone to the house and when we were looking for a house, and they didn't even, they just sort of wanted, they had half an hour slot and they wanted to get on afterwards, but they were there in, just like a pretty standard, you can tell they've just jumped off the desk and come along, and it just didn't help the sale. We didn't buy off them, so it does make a big difference, doesn't it?
You know what, at the end of the day, it's first impression, wherever you go. I'm in work mode. If I'm in business attire, I'm in business, and I need to be taken seriously in what I do. I don't dress like this all the time. I have horses for courses in what I'm doing. If I'm staging a property, I'm preparing a property for a photo shoot, obviously I'm going to dress appropriately. But at the end of the day, it's first impression when people see you. I'm genuinely serious about what I do. Absolutely. So, and yeah, I need to be taken seriously. So for me, I'm professional in what I do on every level.
That's really good. So, on another different note, everyone says this sort of, now this is more for the people who are looking to buy a house. I sit there and I was looking to buy earlier this year, and I looked in my town and I thought, I like that house, and everyone says to me, oh, it's a seller's market. Or they say, oh, it's not a good time to buy, or it's a good time to buy. What the hell does all that mean? Because I can never tell if it's good to do it when the interest is low or the price of house is low. What sort of is the general advice you'd give if you can? I don't know if anyone actually knows.
Let's break that down. Break that down. If it's a buyer's market, it means that times are quite tough for someone to maintain their property and to hang on to it for whatever reason. So if interest rates are going to go higher, then that's going to be harder for that person to continue to live there in some instances, not all. But then, of course, the buyer has also got that level of interest to take on if they did purchase it. It depends on the way finances are working in the world. So, for example, if property is a glut of property, there are too many properties out there, people decide they all want to put their houses in the market, and there's massive choice. So the seller can be choosy. Sorry, the buyer can be choosy, Right. So he can go, there's so many to choose from, and he can take his pick. And because there's so many sellers and not as many buyers, the sellers are desperate to try and obviously attract their property to them. So you can say, well, it's a buyer's market because there's that much available, and they're not selling particularly quickly, so you can please yourself. When there's a shortage of property like COVID times, when there's a shortage of housing, it was a seller's market because you had a real commodity that a lot of people want at the same time. So you could name your price, and people would outbid each other just to get it. So it was quite extraordinary. But when there's the other way round, that's when it switches again. So that's what it means.
Yeah. So based on that, and this is probably going to be the hardest question, when is the next time to buy? Or if I'm sat there now looking, how am I going to know if it's one or the other? Because it's not COVID now, is it?
No, it's all past.
So how do I typically know? Because I don't know what a good amount of houses on the market is, which might mean it's the seller's market or the buyer's market, or if there's a small amount. So I don't know what the amount is. You know what I mean? So how would I know if it is the right time to buy, like now?
We've all got to live somewhere. And if you want the house of your dreams, whatever that is and how much that's going to cost, that's up to you. But if you want somewhere to stay for the longer term and you want to drop your anchor, and property does creep up over time, but it does dip, it comes up. But if you're there for the longevity of it, it doesn't really matter anyway, because it's all relative. If you want to sell and you want to go somewhere else, then whatever's gone up or down is all relative to your house, to the next house, to the one beneath you. So if you want a home and you really want to have security and you want to actually own your own home within reason, you get it bought.
Yeah. So what you base it can just be any time, can't it?
Absolutely.
And it is just really, when there's nothing as drastic as COVID,
yeah,
it could just be literally
and the thing
whenever.
is, if you're living there and you're happy there and you go with the storms, if you want to stay there, the only time it might be a little bit of a challenge is if, for whatever reason, you might need to leave quite quickly and maybe you paid quite a lot for it at the time and it hasn't increased like you would have liked it to. It's actually gone down in value.
Right.
That's the look of the draw. That's it. Supply and demand and what the government are dictating on all different levels. So if you want a home that's yours, that you, with your mortgage, are paying off over time, it's getting closer and closer to being your own. Whereas if you're in rented, it really is dead money. So that's how you've got to weigh it up. Do we stay in rented and we stay safe, but we've got nothing at the end of it? Absolutely nothing, because we're just paying to be there. Whereas at least if you have your own home, you are paying it off historically over a mortgage as an investment and the bigger picture and the long term.
I don't really know how modern auction works. I've got very limited knowledge on it. Is there a buying fee? If you're selling or buying, how does it work?
Okay, if you're selling, if you choose to sell your property through auction, to market your property, we need to do photographs, etc. So that's a set fee, depending on the size of your house and what you need to promote it to the best of its ability. So that's a one-off fee. Apart from that, there is no estate agency fee because the auction house pay me. So for the first time, there is no fee for the seller to sell their property. They've got to pay for their conveyancing. Everybody has to do that. That's fine. But when the virtual hammer falls, that's what they receive.
Well.
Okay. So, and as a buyer, if you want to buy that property, that's fine. You have to have everything in place, all your money ready. Because as the virtual hammer falls, you have to pay a deposit there and then, and that is exchange for the seller. So they know they've got their sale.
Yeah.
Okay. There is, for the luxury of having the property so quickly and the keys in their hand very quickly, and everything's been done for the property, all the legal pack's done, ready, so they know what they're buying. There's a luxury for that. There is a buyer's premium that they have to pay on top of that to the auction house, and that's where I get paid. So the auction house pay me. That's factored into the price, and it's up to the buyer whether they feel that is okay for them. And then they have their conveyancing fee as well, and we agree before the sale it's either 28 days completion or 56 days to give them that flexibility. If it's a mortgage property sale, then we always encourage 56 days to make sure the monies have come through from your lender and it's all within those parameters. If it doesn't, there is a penalty. So but you know from the beginning, it's not as though it's a surprise, and you work back from those dates, and everybody's happy.
No, that's great. So a bit of a different one, AI. Everyone's always saying, AI is going to nip my job, AI is going to do this, it's going to do that. It's hard to envision what AI could do in property. I mean, I sit there and think maybe it can more, do the financial advice for me. It can do that kind of side for me so that I don't need to go to a financial advisor. Or, as you said, you're in a virtual auction as well. Do you see it posing any risk to the property industry as a whole?
I think they've tried with property to do online services where it's not really a people or person industry, and it really doesn't work because there's so many questions and so many things people are unsure about. You can't get away from the real deal, the real person who can explain, and if they don't know, they can find out quickly. But AI can enhance things. It can enhance descriptions. It's very clever the way it words things. To be honest, people like simple. Simple works, simple's good, because it can get very complicated. And I think AI would just enhance the good bits, if you like, of the property, maybe with the presentation. But at the end of the day, you can't beat a real person that is real, you know? So I think AI can help, but I don't think it's going to take over the actual person.
Yeah, no, that's a very good answer, because as most people can see it, it's a very good tool. But it's not essentially a replacement person just yet, but it's
to enhance us.
Exactly.
For all people on the receiving end who are actually looking, listening, whatever. It just helps, I think, with the marketing of it. In some ways, it can do.
Makes it seem better than it is almost, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you got to keep it real.
Yeah.
You know, you can't over-exaggerate or over-emphasise, because when they come to see the real property, it looks not as good as what the presentation was. That's wrong. It's got to be exactly and authentic as it should be.
No, it's really good. So one little bit of advice I'd like to get from you mainly is just someone who's been in the property world. There's a lot of people who are just about to get their first house. And they might be in renting already, but they're sat there and they're going, oh, I can't get a deposit from the house. I'm just going to rent. And I hear that, and my head goes, don't do that, because I'm sat there thinking you're just paying someone else's mortgage, but people will do it anyway, don't they? And then, or they'll go into rented, and then they'll never get out of it ever, and they almost seem not to try. What sort of advice would you give to those people who are very tempted to rent, you know, but really shouldn't, you know?
It's that next stage into having your own front door, isn't it? From sort of growing up. I know I've gone through both with my children who are now grown up, 28 and 24, they want their own front door key, because it's that we've made it, we've arrived. And I get that. But I think for young people who are wanting to get on the property ladder, if in some cases it's possible to stay with family and just work really hard and save your deposit, that can be a bit of a challenge if it's a bit cramped and they just really want to get out. It's time they're on their own 2 feet and they wanted their own 4 walls. And I understand the reason for that. But, you know, a lot of people go joint. They'll go joint into a rental property to make it more affordable. It is tough because it's not cheap to rent now, and to pay for that and then have extra money to put away can be a challenge. But I suppose to save up that deposit, it means you've got to sort of help to, you know, see if family and friends can help you to maybe stay in somewhere that's going to be reasonable to live, and you've still got that affordability to put so much away for that deposit.
So obviously the house prices have gone up.
Yeah,
you always see this thing where they say, you know, my granddad used to be able to buy a house for £50 or something like that.
Yeah,
Or they say
it's all
like
relative.
Or they relate it to the cost of a Freddo or something like that. How it used to be 10p back then, but now it's £1 now. Do you think house prices are just going to, you know, there's not really going to be much stop to this now? This is the sort of world we're living in. It's going to keep getting more inflated, bigger cost, harder to get a house for a first-time buyer.
Yeah, but the government are trying to do what they can with you put in so much of a savings account and they will contribute so much. That's pretty good. That's a good support system. That's working while it's still available. It's encouraging people to save. You put so much in and they'll give you a top-up of a percentage, and that works. But at the end of the day, it's all relative to what we earn as to what we can afford to buy. And again, down to the government of how all the taxes have to be accounted for, who has to pay what, and what you've got left to live, basically. So, yeah, it's the way it is. We've all got to live somewhere, haven't we?
Yeah. So we touched on it before, BNI.
Yeah.
Now, I've already got many interviews with you when I've come to BNI, and I'm a new BNI member. Especially in housing, I know it's a very good one to get into for housing. But BNI as a whole, this hasn't been covered ever on the podcast, anything to do with BNI, because I don't know if we've actually had a BNI member on the podcast yet.
Okay.
What do you want to say to those people who are just sceptical about it? I mean, they haven't gotten over the line about it just yet. So
people who are considering or wondering about it,
or have heard about it or visited before.
I would always say in this kind of thing, don't knock it till you've tried it. Because again, people get swayed with opinions or conversations of, more negative. I went with an open mind way back, and I get the concept completely. So for me, if you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur or a business owner, all of these things, being in business by yourself is not easy. It can be very isolating. You're either just giving to your clients and then you may be working from home, or you're pretty quiet. It can be quite an isolating environment, which is not good for you with your own personal growth. So for me, I really look forward to my meeting every week that I have at my chapter, because I get to meet like-minded people. We bounce things off each other. So it actually becomes your business family. And again, that's something that just evolves over time. And you can visit other chapters. Once you're a member in your local chapter, you are free, depending on if there's no competition for you and there's nobody like you in another chapter, you're free to visit and meet people there. So you're just growing your network. And at the end of the day, it's all about not what you know, it's who you know. And know, like, and trust. So if I'm meeting my colleagues every week and I get to talk to them more, we get to understand each other better, a bit deeper about your business, and you're going to be front and centre of my mind when I'm speaking to all my clients, throughout the next week. So, and it's give as gain. I want to give, I want to help other like-minded business owners with people who I think maybe they could connect with that they don't know about, but I do. So I'd love to be able to get them together, and I do that regularly, and it's really conducive. Yeah, and I think it's fantastic. Good. There's never a day goes by and never a chapter goes by that I don't walk away with something. Yeah. If it's not business, it's a connection. It's, did you know about this? Or there's just so many things in that room that actually get communicated within those couple of hours. It's phenomenal. So for me, it's only a good thing, always. I think what you said, giving it a go. I think that's one of the key things, because like for me, I gave it a go and it has worked. Yeah. And I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. I've been here about a month now. But I think there's a lot of people who sit there and go, it's a lot of time. And I'm sat there thinking, your professional career spans normally 30, 40 years, right? Yeah. 1 year to do a membership, to give it a go, and then you know if it's right or not. And the only real benefit is that you're likely going to cover your cost anyway and a bit more. At least. Oh, absolutely. At least. Yeah. That sounds like a year worth trialed, and then you know if it's right or not, and then you can move on, or you can stay with. And I think that a lot of people don't think about it like that. They think about here and now. They do. Not the bigger picture. I've got to be here this week, next week. And they really need to just think, it's 1 year giving it a go, and it's really actually not that difficult. Yeah. I love the consistency of it and the continuity, because having to be present and be there and turn up every week for that 2-hour slot. So how many hours are there in 7 days in the week that we have, week to week? Yeah. If you can't give your business 2 hours of really concentrated networking opportunity, those people that you meet each week, when you're all off doing what you're doing in business, social media is massive for all of us. If somebody's asking for a particular trade or they want a mortgage advisor, I personally know them. And I can say, you know what? Absolutely worth a phone call. I can highly recommend whoever that person is, because I know that person and they've helped my daughter with her first house. So I can only highly recommend them. And again, humans typically go with recommendations in why they choose to go with, or at least have a conversation initially. So it's massive. It's absolutely huge. And to me, that's really how business works. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And you don't know what you don't know until you speak to somebody. No, 100%. And then mother tongue takes over and off you go. Yeah. So, and the people I meet are phenomenal. I'd never have met if I'd not been part of BNI, the Business Network International. And it's absolutely gigantic throughout, globally, nationally, and even in my region. It's just another tier, and it's phenomenal. And it's fun. It's great fun. And you learn so much from it. Yeah. And the training and the availability of that training is all free once you remember. And if you want to improve yourself and you want to invest back into yourself, which is always a good thing in business, it's all there for you for the taking. 100%. So, rounding off, I want to just ask you what your sort of measure for success is. How would you measure success? How would you sit there and go, I feel like I'm making success right now in my business? Could be through making someone happy, just money. But how would you measure that success to you? What is it to you? Measuring my success is every day's a school day. Always keep the head open with whatever's going in and learn from it. Perfection doesn't exist. Learn from things. We're not robots. We're real people. listen, learn, listen to your clients. Always listen to feedback, because they are like that's gold for me, because good, bad or indifferent, I just want to know, have you been happy with the service I've offered you? Is there anything you think I could have done better? In some cases, if I get any testimonials, which I do encourage, I will always answer them immediately, whatever the testimonial is. And I just think, again, looking at yourself and seeing how you can be your best self, and just keep developing, just keep learning, and, give things a go.
That's a really good
Just
answer.
have that yes mentality. Start saying yes and work out how you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Just say yes and you'll find a way. And honestly, that has sent me someplace else. And this is B&I again. It's so positive. The energy in those rooms when you go in is phenomenal. That I carry that out with me as well without even realising. So again, it's all positive. It's all conducive. So keep yourself open to opportunities. And by being in that environment, you won't go wrong.
No, that's fantastic. So, last one, bit of advice for we've already talked about if you wanted to let anyone get into this industry, but what business advice would you give to someone just getting into business? They're flat out, they've not started a business ever before. Maybe they're working somewhere and have done for the last 20 years, or maybe they are literally, like me, quite young and just want to start something and get going. What sort of advice would you give to someone starting a new business?
I would say something that you're passionate about, that you really feel a deep feeling for, because it can be tough. So you've got to have the love. It can take a lot out of you, but it's peaks and troughs, that's normal. Be passionate about something and look at it from a point of view where it will solve problems. It will eliminate fear. It will help people. It will take them through the least path of resistance with what you know in your industry to help other people who aren't as knowledgeable. It's not their thing. So be good at what you do, be your best self so you can help others that don't know. But always give, because it just comes back to you anyway.
Yeah.
For me. And I think that's so rewarding when go the extra mile. Always.
100%.
Yeah, think out the box.
Nice.
But listen and learn and keep yourself grounded.
Nice. Really
That'd be
good.
it.
So if anyone wants to get in contact with you, they're selling a house, they're buying a house, or maybe they just need some advice
Of course.
for the future, how would they do that?
You can contact me on Sovereign Properties, which is www.sovereignproperties.co.uk, or myself. I'm on social media. Everything will be on here anyway. So, Please get in touch.
Fantastic. So that is the end of this episode. And as I said, if you want to find it, it's Debbie Boardman, and we'll see you on the next one.
Okay.
Cool. Great.